Hi guys, Tin Man here. We've got the side cover of the motor off. Of course, here we have our camshaft. Now we're going to extend this out through the crankcase and put a set of points on it. Now normally on a good quality motor this would run inside a bearing, and the bearing would fit inside the crankcase like this. So that would be just a matter of putting a sealed bearing in there to stop the oil coming out. However, in this case, being an HHO Chinese motor, we have no bearing. It simply runs in the aluminium crankcase, which is not very nice. So what this means now is I'll have to machine a small groove in the shaft face and put a O-ring in there as well to try and stop our oil coming out the hole. So that's what we're up to. There was a member on our forum that wanted to know why we had to get rid of the waste spark. The reason being is in a normal situation the waste spark would trigger as the piston's coming up with the exhaust valve open, so this is not a problem. However, when you're using HHO as a fuel, you actually have to retard the timing so as it fires after top dead centre. So our waste spark would go off when the piston starts to come back down, and our inlet valve over here would be open, and that's exactly what we don't want with HHO. Otherwise it will spark as the chamber's filling up with our HHO mix, and it will flash back right to the bubbler. So the way I'm going to get rid of it is because we have a 2-to-1 reduction crank to camshaft. I'm going to extend that out the side of the motor and run a set of points off it. The other good thing about that is simply by rotating the stator that the points are on 45 degrees, I can adjust the timing angle by 90 degrees on the crank, because of course it's our 2-to-1 reduction. So that's where we're at now. Going to bolt this down in the drill press, drill our hole through for our cam extension. If you're ever going to do this, you bolt that flat face to the bed of the drill press through the 4 bolts, so as your hole will come out nice and square to the camshaft. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that, and once I've done it and has got the stator mounted on the side of the motor, we'll come back and have another look at it. Cheers for now. Okay, we've done the shaft bit. We've got our little shaft coming out of the side of the motor that's running off the cam, ready for our stator and points. As you can see, it's half the rotation speed of the motor, so that will be running our points. This plate's just for visual so you can see it turning, nothing to do with the setup. So that's where we're at the moment. Going to have to make a carrier plate that bolts on here over the top of this shaft for our points to mount on. Also have to have these holes slotted so we can adjust our timing one way or the other. So it should be interesting. In thinking about it, we're going to have to make this a solid plate and the plate that turns with the points on it around the shaft, otherwise we'll run into all sorts of trouble. So that's what we'll have to do, is make up a carrier plate for the stator for the points to sit on, and also have them able to rotate left and right, and meanwhile trying to keep it all in behind the pulley that's got to sit on here as well. So we'll have a go at that and we'll be back. Okay, we've got the stator all made and in place. Ran into a bit of a problem with the camshaft, just so happens to be cast iron and not cast steel, so couldn't do any welding on it to weld the pin in, so I had the machine one up and press fit it and pin it through the cam itself. But I've gone for a stator or a armature and brushes, and in the end, instead of points, and there's a good reason for this that'll become apparent a bit later on in the build. Basically the spark plug is not just going to fire once, it's going to continue to fire about 250 times a second on the downstroke, maybe even a higher frequency than that. This is just to ensure that we don't get any misfires. When you start putting steam and water and all that into a motor, if the plug gets wet, it'll misfire. I'm sure you've all heard it happen before on other motors where people are injecting steam or water, like in the Geet system. This plug will be firing all the way down on the stroke. I'm going to use a marine plug. They don't have the little prong that sticks out the front. They're designed to spark from the centre to the outside, and this is for the very reason that they operate in a very wet environment and can suck in a lot of moisture in the air out in the ocean. So that's the plan with this. And on this plate, I've got a few of these plates that are out of old windscreen wiper motors. There's other mounting points to put other sets of brushes in, which could indeed come in handy a little bit later on. So that's where we're at the moment. It's all set up, ready to go. So all I've got to do now is find some good editing software and put all this crap together. Anyway, until the next section of the build, cheers from the Tin Man.